"This ID is fake," the military police officer declared, holding up the worn identification card to the light. "The security features don't match anything in our current database." The woman standing in handcuffs said nothing, just stared ahead with the patience of someone who had been through this before. Around them, the military police station buzzed with activity as officers tried to figure out who they had arrested at the Pentagon parking garage. Her fingerprints came back with no matches. Her face recognition scan returned 0 results. According to every official database, the woman claiming to be Major Diana Cross simply didn't exist. But when a senior intelligence officer arrived and saw the ID card, his face went white. "Where did you get this?" he whispered. "This identification format hasn't been used in 15 years. And this security clearance level." He paused, studying the woman's face more carefully. "You're supposed to be dead. Welcome to True Story Zone." Before we dive into this incredible story of erased identities, classified operations, and the moment when the past comes back to haunt those who try to bury it, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button. The Pentagon parking garage at 0347 hours was supposed to be secure, monitored by multiple layers of surveillance, and patrolled by military police around the clock. When Sergeant First Class Rodriguez spotted a figure moving between vehicles in an area restricted to general officers, his training kicked in immediately. The person appeared to be a woman in her early 40s, moving with purpose but without authorization. She wore civilian clothes, dark jeans, a navy blue windbreaker, and running shoes, but something about her bearings suggested military training. When Rodriguez called out for her to stop and identify herself, she complied immediately, raising her hands and turning around slowly. "Ma'am, this is a restricted area," Rodriguez said, approaching with his weapon drawn but not aimed. "I need to see some identification." The woman reached slowly into her jacket pocket and produced a military identification card, extending it toward him with steady hands. "Major Diana Cross, U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command," she said quietly. Rodriguez examined the ID under his flashlight, frowning as he studied the format and security features. Something seemed off about the card. It was clearly official military identification, but the design didn't match current standards. The photo showed a younger version of the woman standing before him, and the security clearance level listed was higher than anything he'd ever seen. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me for verification," he decided. "This identification appears to be irregular." The woman, who had identified herself as Major Cross, nodded calmly. "I understand, Sergeant. Standard procedure." What followed was a textbook arrest and processing procedure, but from the beginning, nothing about the case made sense. The woman offered no resistance, answered basic questions with military precision, but provided no additional information beyond what was required. At the military police station, the investigation into Major Diana Cross quickly became the most puzzling case anyone could remember. Every standard verification procedure returned the same result. According to official databases, no such person existed. Captain Sarah Mitchell, the duty officer, ran the identification through every system available to military police. The Army Personnel Database showed no record of a Major Diana Cross. The Defense Enrollment Eligibility Reporting System had no matching entries. Even the comprehensive background check systems returned no results. "It's like she's a ghost," Mitchell told her sergeant. "The ID looks authentic, but there's no supporting documentation anywhere in our systems." More troubling was the identification card itself. While it appeared genuine, the format was unfamiliar to current military police. The security features were sophisticated, holographic elements, embedded chips, special links, but they didn't match current military ID standards. "I've been processing military IDs for 8 years, said Staff Sergeant Williams, the station's identification specialist. "I've never seen anything like this. The technology is advanced, but the format is old. It's like someone took cutting-edge security features and applied them to an obsolete design." Meanwhile, Diana Cross sat in the holding area with the calm patience of someone accustomed to waiting. She had provided her name, rank, and serial number as required, but offered nothing else. When asked about her presence in the Pentagon parking garage, she simply stated that she had been conducting authorized intelligence activities. "Ma'am, we can't verify your authorization through any normal channels," Captain Mitchell explained during the initial interview. "Your identification doesn't match our current database, and we have no record of your military service." Cross met her gaze steadily. "Captain, I suggest you contact the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Use the Emergency Verification Protocol. Reference code, Sierra 7 Alpha." Mitchell frowned. The protocol Cross mentioned wasn't one she recognized, but something about the woman's confidence suggested it was real. "Ma'am, I'm not familiar with that protocol." "Few people are," Cross replied simply. "But someone at ODNI will know what it means." Captain Mitchell's call to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence set off a chain reaction that would transform a routine security incident into something much more significant. When she mentioned the reference code Sierra 7 Alpha, the duty officer on the other end of the line became immediately serious. "Captain, I need you to secure that individual immediately," the ODNI representative instructed. "No further questioning, no additional processing. We're sending someone to handle this situation personally." Within 2 hours, the military police station received a visit from someone they had never expected to see: Deputy Director Marcus Webb from the CIA's Special Activities Center. Webb was a man in his 50s with the kind of authority that made senior military officers stand at attention. When Webb saw Diana Cross sitting calmly in the holding area, his reaction was immediate and unmistakable. "Jesus Christ," he whispered, staring at her through the observation window. "She's supposed to be dead." "Sir?" Captain Mitchell asked, confused by the deputy director's response. Webb studied Cross more carefully, comparing her face to something only he could see. "Captain, the woman you have in custody was officially killed in action 12 years ago during a classified operation in Eastern Europe. Her death was confirmed by multiple intelligence sources." "But sir, she's sitting right here." "Yes, she is," Webb replied grimly. "Which means either our intelligence was wrong, or something much more complicated is happening here." Webb entered the holding area alone, carrying a thick file folder that he set on the table between himself and Cross. When she looked up at him, there was recognition in her eyes, but no surprise. "Hello, Marcus," she said quietly. "It's been a long time. 12 years, to be exact," Webb replied, sitting down across from her. "We buried you in Arlington. Full military honors. Your family still visits your grave." Cross's expression didn't change. "My family was told I died in a training accident. It was the only way to keep them safe." Webb opened the file folder, revealing documents that were heavily redacted but clearly official. Diana Cross, Major, Army Intelligence, assigned to Task Force Phantom, a joint CIA military operation targeting human trafficking networks with ties to international terrorism. Killed in action, Prague, Czech Republic, March 15, 2012. Officially killed in action, Cross corrected. "There's a difference." Over the following hours, in a secure conference room with representatives from multiple intelligence agencies, Diana Cross explained the truth behind her disappearance and the 12 years that had followed. Task Force Phantom had been a deep cover operation designed to infiltrate and destroy human trafficking networks that were funding terrorist activities across Eastern Europe and the Middle East. The operation required personnel who could disappear completely from official records while maintaining their effectiveness as intelligence operatives. "We weren't just undercover," Cross explained to the assembled officials. "We were erased. New identities, new backgrounds, no connections to our previous lives. The idea was that if we were captured or compromised, there would be no way to trace us back to U.S. intelligence operations." The operation had been successful beyond expectations, dismantling trafficking networks that had been operating for decades and eliminating key figures in terrorist financing operations. But success had come at a price. The operatives involved could never return to their previous lives. "The cover story about my death wasn't supposed to be permanent," Cross continued. "We were told that after the operation concluded, we would be reintegrated into normal military service with new identities and assignments. But Task Force Phantom had become a victim of its own success. The intelligence gathered during the operation had revealed connections to high-level political figures and business leaders in multiple countries. The decision was made to keep the operation classified indefinitely, which meant the operatives involved remained officially dead. For 12 years, I've been living under a false identity, conducting intelligence operations that don't officially exist, Cross explained. No support, no backup, no acknowledgement of my service. Deputy Director Webb reviewed the documents in front of him, his expression growing more troubled with each page. Diana, according to these records, you've been instrumental in stopping at least 6 major terrorist attacks and dismantling trafficking networks in 14 countries. 15 countries, she corrected. The operations in Bosnia weren't included in the official count. Why are you here now? Asked Colonel Harrison, the military intelligence representative. What brought you back to the Pentagon? Cross's expression hardened. Because Task Force Phantom is being reactivated, and they're planning to make the same mistakes that forced us underground in the first place. What Diana Cross revealed next would shake the intelligence community to its core. Over the past 6 months, she had been tracking efforts to restart Task Force Phantom using a new generation of operatives who would face the same fate as their predecessors: official death and permanent erasure from military records. The program is being sold as an evolution of special operations, Cross explained. Deep cover operatives who can function without any connection to official U.S. intelligence structures. But what they're not telling the new recruits is that they'll never be able to return to their old lives. She had spent months documenting the recruitment process, the training protocols, and most importantly, the plan to fake the deaths of 12 Army intelligence officers who believed they were volunteering for a temporary deep cover assignment. I couldn't let another generation of soldiers disappear the way we did, Cross said simply. My team made that sacrifice because we believed it was temporary. These new operatives are being lied to. The evidence she had gathered was extensive and damning. Recruitment documents that misrepresented the nature of the assignment. Training materials that prepared operatives for permanent identity changes without explicitly stating that fact. And most troubling of all, budgetary allocations for memorial services and family notification procedures that would be used to stage the deaths of active duty personnel. Deputy Director Webb studied the documents with growing alarm. Diana, if this information is accurate, we're looking at a massive violation of military personnel regulations and intelligence oversight protocols. It's accurate, Cross replied. I've been documenting this for months. The operation is scheduled to begin next week with the first round of staged deaths. Colonel Harrison leaned forward. Who's running this program? Who authorized the reactivation of Task Force Phantom? Cross handed him a single document that made his face go pale. Assistant Secretary of Defense William Garrett. He was a junior analyst when the original Task Force Phantom was created. He's convinced that the program's success justifies any means necessary to continue it. The meeting that followed would determine not only Diana Cross's fate, but the future of covert operations within the intelligence community. Representatives from the CIA, NSA, military intelligence, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence gathered in a secure conference room at the Pentagon to confront Assistant Secretary Garrett about Task Force Phantom. Garrett was a man in his early 60s who had built his career on managing sensitive intelligence operations. When he entered the conference room and saw Diana Cross sitting at the table, his reaction was immediate and telling. That woman is a security risk, he declared before anyone could speak. She was declared dead for operational security reasons. Her presence here compromises ongoing intelligence activities. Mr. Secretary, Deputy Director Webb replied calmly. Major Cross has provided us with evidence that Task Force Phantom is being reactivated without proper authorization or oversight. Garrett's expression didn't change. Task Force Phantom was one of the most successful intelligence operations in recent history. The fact that you're discussing it in the presence of someone who should be maintaining operational security demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of intelligence protocols. Cross spoke for the first time since Garrett had entered the room. Bill, you were there when we were told this assignment was temporary. You know, we were promised reintegration after the operation concluded. The operation never concluded, Garrett replied sharply. The intelligence gathered by Task Force Phantom continues to generate actionable information. The operatives involved understood the risks when they volunteered. We understood the risks of the mission, Cross said steadily. We didn't understand that our government would abandon us permanently. The confrontation that followed revealed the full scope of the ethical and legal issues surrounding Task Force Phantom. Garrett argued that the success of the original operation justified its continuation, even if it meant permanently erasing more military personnel from official records. Cross and her allies argued that using staged deaths to create deep cover operatives violated fundamental principles of military service and constitutional law. The investigation that followed Diana Cross's revelation lasted 6 months and involved multiple congressional oversight committees, inspector general offices, and independent review panels. What they found was a systematic pattern of abuse that had affected not just Task Force Phantom, but several other classified operations. Assistant Secretary Garrett was forced to resign and faced criminal charges for exceeding his authority and violating military personnel regulations. The planned reactivation of Task Force Phantom was canceled, and the 12 officers who had been selected for the program were reassigned to conventional intelligence duties. For Diana Cross, the resolution was more complex. While her service record was officially restored and she was cleared of all charges related to her presence at the Pentagon, the question of her future remained complicated. Major Cross, Colonel Harrison explained during one of their final meetings, "Your official status has been restored, but the nature of your service over the past 12 years makes normal military assignment difficult." Cross had anticipated this problem. "Colonel, I understand the complications. My skills and experience are suited for intelligence work, but my background makes me unsuitable for conventional assignments." The solution came from an unexpected source. Deputy Director Webb offered Cross a position with the CIA's Special Activities Center, where her unique experience and proven capabilities could be utilized while maintaining appropriate security protocols. "You've spent 12 years operating without support or acknowledgement," Webb told her. "This position would give you the resources and backing you've been missing, while allowing you to continue the work you're uniquely qualified to perform." Cross accepted the offer, but with conditions. She insisted on regular contact with oversight officials, transparent reporting of her activities, and most importantly, a guarantee that she would never again be asked to disappear from official records. Diana Cross's new identity as a CIA Special Activities Center operative allowed her to continue the intelligence work she had been conducting for 12 years, but with official support and acknowledgement. Her first assignment was to locate and reintegrate the other members of the original Task Force Phantom, many of whom had been operating in isolation for over a decade. The military identification card that had started the entire affair was retired and replaced with current CIA credentials. But Cross kept the old ID as a reminder of what could happen when intelligence operations lost sight of their human cost. Her story became a case study in intelligence oversight, used to train new officers about the importance of maintaining accountability even in the most classified operations. The lesson was simple. No mission, regardless of its importance, justified permanently abandoning the people who carried it out. The Pentagon parking garage where Cross had been arrested was redesigned with improved security protocols. But more importantly, new procedures were implemented to ensure that intelligence operatives would never again be forced to live as ghosts in their own country. Years later, when new intelligence officers asked about the importance of oversight and accountability, their instructors would tell them about Task Force Phantom and the woman whose outdated ID card had exposed a system that valued operational success over human dignity. Diana Cross continued her work in the shadows, but she was no longer alone in them. Her identity was secure, her service was acknowledged, and her sacrifice was remembered by those who understood the true cost of protecting freedom. Because some secrets are worth keeping, and some operations require people to disappear. But no one should be forgotten forever, and no service should go unacknowledged. The identification card that had seemed fake to military police had actually been the most real thing in the room. Proof that someone had given everything for their country and deserved to be welcomed home. Her story served as a reminder that behind every classified operation are real people with real lives, and that the greatest security comes not from perfect secrecy, but from perfect accountability to those who serve in the darkness, so others can live in the light.